What's going on, guys? It's Roganamon here, and welcome to week 2 of the Countdown Cup. Now, I'm going to be flying solo this week because my co host is going on holiday, so it's just going to be me. You're going to have to put up with me and probably my biased predictions. So, last week was very much a shocker in terms of some of the results. You had Paris Eternal taking down the Down Fuel in what's an upset, but it's kind of not as big as an upset as it would have been prior in the season if Dallas were at full strength still trying, because obviously we know they've booked up this place. The same with Shanghai Dragons, with the Philadelphia Fusion. I'd give NYXL more the benefit of the doubt because Shanghai were playing their entire team that game, so it's kind of more of an upset for them. But anyway, we got some teams who haven't played looking to start off their campaign to get into the knockouts, and some teams, like the Atlanta Reign over here, who are looking to solidify their knockout spots and trying to get the highest seed possible. If they go 2-0 this week, then they'll have a 4-0 record, and they pretty much all but locked up at least a top 2 seeding, which will give them the bye in the knockouts, meaning they have to play one game and win one game to get into Hawaii, which usually gives you the advantage, but ask any team who has gone 4-0 this season, and they will tell you otherwise. So, starting off the week, we have the London Spitfire, my team, as you know, who haven't been doing as well, 0-12 at the moment, against the Toronto Defiant, who have looked decent in spells. They're very much the mid-table gatekeeper team. If you beat them, then you pretty much solidifying yourself as a top of the table team or top half of the table team. So the last time these teams played, I believe it was 3-1 to the Toronto Defiant. Obviously, Toronto having that hilarious mess up on Lijiang Tower, which gave London Spitfire the map win. But it was then dominance from the Toronto Defiant afterwards. But the key factor here is that this was the London Spitfire in the main melee compared to whatever was coming out in the Countdown Cup, because we saw improvement in the Summer Showdown, and we saw improvement in the June Joust. Yes, they got map wins, and I believe they got more map wins in their winless counterparts of Vancouver Titans, but they still haven't got that all important win. And now this is a possible chance to get a win for them. Their other game is very much up in the air, but very much so they can beat this team depending on how Toronto show up on the day. They're very beatable. But it's going to come down to whether or not Hardy can be a team player, whether Sparker can pop off like he's been shown he can do. What a debut that guy had. And just whether they can get this ball composition down. Because I think London is a team that people are underrating on this ball composition. Because yes, Hardy is the main tank player, but there's other compositions you can run. London were running Bull, Reinhardt, Bull Larissa before anybody else even thought of that. Like they have a hybrid of the two comps that we saw prominent last week, being the Aressa bunker comp, and then the Bull comp, because they kind of play the Torbjorn with the Arissa bunker. Then they have the Wrecking Ball going around doing the good pile drivers. So London could be a dark horse in this meta. But then they could also crumble, like we've seen them do at many different occasions. So it's quite a hard one to predict this one, but I think being being realistic, I think Toronto win this. But these are my predictions. And I think that this could be a first win for London. Obviously, that would ruin next week. This whole this stonks game, which they've given double points for because of the memes. But this was going to be the games that everybody, oh my god, will they get their first win? I don't think so. I think the Spitfire take this in 5 maps. I think they take the Toronto come out flat footed. They're not expecting Spitfire to be maybe as good as they are, or maybe they're just caught off guard by how composed they are, which they haven't been shown to be in previous cycles. And London come out with their first win. I have faith. I believe in this team. I know that they can only get better. They were dominant in tier two, in contenders, and I believe they're getting their stride now. And this is a very 3-in-1 stage for the Spitfire. It's just whether or not they can put it together and get it all together. So, moving on to the next game, I'm not even going to break this one down. The Vancouver Titans haven't looked the best. They've got the least map wins apart from the Valiant. The Boston Uprising are going up in the table. They just beat the Paris Eternal, who were one of the most hyped up teams in the league for how well they're doing. So I'm just gonna go a fairly simple 3-0 against the Vancouver Titans. Moving over to the East region now, and we have a game that will pretty much decide which one of these teams will be going into the playoffs. Because if NYXL win this, it only further the ground on to the Spark. However, if the Fusion lose this, it means that the NYXL and the Spark can catch up to them. So, this is a very high stakes game, even though New York look like they're quite a way behind. They're not. Philadelphia can make one screw up here, and New York can overtake them. But I think that we all know it, when the Fusion go on a run, they go on a tear. Do I think that this is going to be a 4-0 stage for them? No, just because of their game they have on the Sunday. But I think this is a very simple 3-1 stage for the Fusion. Um, do I think that they're gonna get this done cleanly? No, because NYXL have players like Jonak, they have players like Flora, Guangbu, and they have so many players that have pop-off potential. It's whether or not they can get it all together and be as organized as they were against the Shanghai Dragons. So, I think this is going to be a 3-1 victory for the Philadelphia Fusion. This could easily be a 3-2, so keep that in mind, or it could easily be a New York win. But I have faith in the Fusion. I think they're going to make knockouts, maybe even make a tournament if Shanghai aren't on their best game. And yeah, that is my bold. I suppose it's a bold prediction. Not really. Fusion are on the rise at the moment. They have so many players that are coming into their own now. Finally, with this team gelling. So this is a key match this week. This next one, we have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Now the Shanghai Dragons are actually 0-2, and they have the second worst map record in East apart from the LA Valiant. So Shanghai need to win this, and they need to win this 3-0 if they want to make a chance of going to the knockouts. Now, do they want to go to the knockouts? Do they want to go to Hawaii again? Sure, they could get a three-peat back-to-back tournaments, but I think their focus is more on getting to the playoffs and not suffering the burnout, because Coach Moon, their coach, has actually gone on to Chinese socials and Chinese news and said that the Shanghai Dragons are suffering from burnout, and can you blame them? They're like 8 points ahead of the Seoul Dynasty in second place. So I don't really think they need to go to Hawaii again. They've got their place in the knockouts. They've got their place in the playoffs. Sorry, they're guaranteed to be going to the playoffs next month. Do they really need to be trying at this point? Sure, they can experiment. They can give vital playtime to players like Develop, players like all of their players that they've signed who wouldn't usually get a look in, can get a chance to actually get vital league time. Even if they're not winning, they're getting the experience, which can then build for the future. So I think the Seoul Dynasty will win this. Yes, you could consider this an upset, but I think that the Shanghai Dragons aren't going to be at their full strength this weekend again. I don't think that they're really bothered about making Hawaii, quite frankly. They don't need more points. They're safe in the knowledge that they're in, and I think that Coach Moon is going to want to be on the back foot at the moment just to give the players the time to breathe. Because if they're in burnout come playoffs, then they're going to pee their title hopes down the drain, and that's not what they want. That they've been building for a title win this entire season, the dominance that they've shown. They deserve to win this title. And to throw it away because you want to get to Hawaii again and win 3 tournaments in a row, it's like, do you want to win the battle or do you want to win the war? It's that kind of mentality that the Dragons need right now. So I think the Seoul Dynasty are going to take this 3 maps to 1. I think that the Shanghai Dragons will show some sparks of hope in some of these newer players and mixing it in with some of these older players that they've been dominant. But again, I can't see Shanghai being at full strength this week. It could equally be, and they could have brushed off it, but I don't think they will. Moving into our first double points game, we have the Chengdu Hunters, who are looking to grab that second place from the Seoul Dynasty, going up against the Guangzhou Charge, who pretty much need to win every single one of their games over the next 2 weeks if they even want to make. I don't even know if it's possible for them to make playoffs actually, but The Charge are playing to make it to a tournament for the first time this season, whereas the Chengdu Hunters are playing to make it into that automatic qualification spot in second place. They don't want to go through the slog of the play-in tournament because you never know what you're going to get in that tournament. So I think the Chengdu Hunters are going to be at full strength, and the Zhuangzhou Charge are going to be caught flat-footed. Maybe they take a map. Chengdu have been known, like, we all know what the Cheng 9 is, so I'm going to say this is going to be a fairly simple 3-map 3-1 for the Chengdu Hunters. A lot of 3-1s in East for me predicting this week, but this is those kind of games now. Moving on to the next game, we're going to do all of the East region games and then we'll finish up in West. So we have the Philadelphia Fusion taking on the Seoul Dynasty. Now, forget what I said about all of these teams resting, all of these teams wanting to get in. Both of these teams are going to be at full strength. Both of these teams are going to be fighting to get their spot in not only this tournament, but in making sure they don't have to go for the play-in tournament. So this is going to be a very close, very highly competitive game. Now, who comes out on top? I think that the Seoul Dynasty have been more competitive and more up there than the Philadelphia Fusion have been this entire season, even if the Fusion are on a run at the moment. I think that the Seoul Dynasty have more consistency in their play. And yes, I think the Seoul Dynasty are going to go 4-0 this. I think that this is where the Philadelphia run comes to an end. They'll go 3-1, and they'll get either first or second spot in the season. So I'm going to go. This is going to be closely fought. Now I'm going to go 3-2 to the Seoul Dynasty. Now this could easily be a 3-2 win for the Fusion, but my money is on Seoul because they've had more consistency throughout this entire season. And that's all I really have to go off for this. Easily, Philadelphia Fusion, with how consistent they've been this tournament, taking down the Shanghai Dragons 3-0, could easily also do that. But both of these teams would have beaten the Shanghai Dragons in my predictions. So I think that the Seoul Dynasty will come out on top for this one at least. Now, moving on, again, Chengdu Hunters playing to get into the automatic qualifications, where the NYXL are playing to get into the play-in tournament itself. Now they need to win this. This is a must-win game, otherwise they go 2-2 and risk having to go through probably the Seoul Dynasty to get into a tournament. So it's hard to predict because NYXL have the ability to beat a team like the Hunters. For God's sake, to beat the Shanghai Dragons, even though they're on burnout, that's still huge. And the confidence boost that it's going to give them, no matter what, it's undisputable. Um, but I still think that the Chengdu Hunters, this is their meta, and if they don't make a tournament, if they don't make a grand finals tournament, it's going to be surprising because none of their comfort picks have been banned. They can play this ball meta. They've been playing this ball meta as long as anybody else has, if not longer. It's the same as the Shanghai Dragons, but the Chengdu Hunters actually have something to play for still. So I'm gonna go for another 3-1. I think the Chengdu Hunters will win this 3-1. Now, the final game of the season for both of these teams, potentially, well, not for the Shanghai Dragons, but the final game of the season for the Charge. I don't think they win this. I know Shanghai are burnt out, but I think any Shanghai team has it in them to be this Charge team. No offense to, they have so many good players. Kareev does not deserve to be on this team. Eileen, they have good players. It's just, I think the loss of Nero and so many other their vital players from last season has really gutted this Charge team, and it's shown. And the lack of consistency for who's in charge, I think that Shanghai Dragons will take this 3-1. Do I? I think I'm going to 3-0 to the Dragons. I think they're going to sign off in style. I'm going to 3-1, or 1-3, sorry. But yeah, that's my East region's predictions. Now moving over, we're going to do the rest of the West region, which there's a reason I've been delaying this. As you can see, the Dallas Fuel are taking on the London Spitfire. Now, I'm on pure London hopium here. Dallas could be playing Repel. Dallas could not be at full strength. They could be on the back foot, and London could sneak a win here. But also, the Dallas Fuel beat the San Francisco Shock. London took San Francisco Shock to 5 maps, so there is I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I think Dallas do win this, sadly, but oh my god, how happy I would be if the Spitfire could take down the Fuel, even if the Fuel aren't at full strength. Oh, yes, please. But I think that the Dallas Fuel are going to win this. I think that the Spitfire do have it actually in them to take them out from the Fuel in this. We can stay in this foot off the gas, but I don't think that there's enough consistency in this London Spitfire team to then go on and beat the Dallas Fuel. So I'm gonna go for a fairly simple 3 maps to 1. So moving on to our next game, we have the Florida Mayhem, who are looking to turn around. They can still actually make the playoffs if they go 4-0 this stage, but I don't think they will. Or the play-in, sorry. And they're taking on the Atlanta Reign, who are 2-0 at the moment, and they went on an absolute tear last week. So, do I think Florida will win? They have a chance to win. If they put OG back in and OG has got his mentality back, I think that they have the chance to win. But I can't deny this Atlanta team anymore. They are just phenomenal. At least when they're in the West region. When they come against these East teams, they seem to crap their pants. But I think that this Atlanta Reign team, in the form they're in, are leagues above this Florida Mayhem team. Obviously, Checkmate coming in on main tank, it's questionable at best. And some of his plays have been questionable at best. But I think that the Atlanta Reign will 3-0 this. Florida could win. Like honestly, they could. If I had faith and if I had trust in this lineup, then maybe. But I think Atlanta win this 3-0. I think this is gonna be a fairly simple 3-0, and not gonna fairly simple easy qualification for the Atlanta Reign right there. So moving over to the West double points game, we have the Toronto Defiant taking on the Washington Justice. Now in this world, the Defiant have just lost to the Spitfire. They've handed them their first win. They are that team. And the Washington Justice are 0-2 at the moment. Um, some of the plays from the Washington Justice last week were, I don't know what they were doing. I mean, you had the nice meme, which was supposed to be nice EMP because Assassin EMP'd nobody, and he decided to take a bath in the canals of Italy in Rialto. I don't know what he was doing. He just kind of ran off the map. Washington is sort of in this shambles at the moment. Do I think that they can beat Toronto Defiant team though? Do I think they can make a resurgence? Yes, this team was all-star. They can turn around at any point and get a win. Um, I think that the Toronto Defiant will be looking to turn around and get to bounce back after losing to the Spitfire because they are still in the play-in qualification chances. So I think that this is going to be actually very competitive. But I am going to give it to the Washington Justice, and I'm going to say they're going to win this 3 maps to 1. No, a lot of 3-1s this week. Moving over to the next game, we have the Boston Uprising taking on the Florida Mayhem. Now, this is a little closer than a lot of people were expecting, I think. Boston Uprising have the potential to be a very good team and then lose to a very crap team at any given point. I think Florida. I want to believe Florida will win this, but also Boston made a speed run attempt on. Well, didn't it wasn't even an attempt. They just sped run the Outlaws, and the Outlaws are having issues of their own. Do I think Florida will win this? No, but I think they will make it competitive. I think this will be a 5 mapper. I think Boston take this 3 maps to 2. Okay, so in the next game we have the Atlanta Reign taking on the Dallas Fuel. Now this is a big match for both teams. So both of these teams, well, the Dallas Fuel will be 2-1 going into this, whereas the Atlanta Reign will 3-1. So the Dallas Fuel are going to be looking potentially to take a win off of them here and get that top seed. But are they really going to be wanting to take the top seed? Because you think about it like this, again, the same burnout theory for the Shanghai Dragons is applicable to the Dallas Fuel here. They've made a tear for the entire season. They've got their spot locked up, whereas the Atlanta Reign have something to fight for. So I honestly believe that the Atlanta Reign can win this and will win this. This will be their first win over the Dallas Fuel. Um, how they do it, I think this is going to be every time these teams play is a 5-mapper. So I'm going to go 3 maps to 2 to the Atlanta Reign. I am full 4-0 Atlanta. Let's go. I believe in this team. They could betray my trust completely with this game, but I think Atlanta win this. I said it now. If I'm wrong, I'll look stupid next week, but that's okay. I believe in Atlanta Reign. So, moving on to our final map, we have an easy prediction here. Washington have looked bad, but they're by no means Vancouver bad. So, it's fairly simple 3-0 win for the Washington Justice, putting them 2-2 of the season. So, that's all of my predictions for this week. Let me know what you think of my predictions in the comment section below. Don't forget to do your pick'ems this week if you want a chance to win the Hanzo statue and obviously the $500. And don't forget, Overwatch League starts at 12 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. Don't forget to do this before 12 p.m. Pacific time on Friday, because that's when it's locked. And then on that same Friday, in 2 days' time, as of recording this, the games will go live, and we'll see if the London Spitfire can get their first win this week. I have my fingers crossed, but I don't know. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!